Hello, today is December 7th, 1994, and my name is Dan Cruz, and I am a volunteer with the Illinois Historical Society, which is cooperating with a statewide effort to collect oral histories from Illinois citizens that participated in the events surrounding World War II. We are in the home of Arthur Welsh, and Arthur, you live at
301 North 7th, Marshall, Illinois.
Well, Mr. Welsh was a veteran of the Second World War, and he had also spent a little time as a prisoner of war. We're going to interview him about those experiences 50 years ago. Arthur, would you please let us begin by introducing yourself to us? Give me your full name and your place and date of your birth.
Arthur J. Welsh, Denison, Illinois, December the 12th, 1921.
Well, you've got a birthday coming up here in just a few days, don't you? Well, my birthday is December 3rd, so yeah. We would also like to have the names of each of your parents.
Ella Welch and Frank C. Welch.
Frank C. Welch. And did you have any brothers or sisters?
Two brothers, Emil Welch and Warren Welch.
Okay. Are there any details about your parents or your family that you would like to give at this time?
No, I really don't think so. I don't know.
What type of work were your parents involved in?
Farming.
Farming. We're going to begin by talking about right before you entered the military. So please explain to me, what was life like for you before the war? And where were you, and what had you been doing in school or at work? Particularly 1941, before the Japanese attack.
Well, I graduated from high school in 1938. And the fall, I entered Rose Poly, Terre Haute, Indiana College, Engineering College, and went a little past the first semester. Then my father got hurt, and I got his hand caught in a grinder. So I went back to the farm and helped there till January 1940. Then I enlisted in the service.
Okay. What did you study while you were at Rose Poly?
Well, all freshmen studied same,
engineering. Okay, so it was all engineering. In 1940, before we start talking about when you joined up in the military, what thoughts do you have about the war before the United States became directly involved in the conflict?
Well, of course, I was in the service when they became involved in the war.
Did you read very many accounts of the events that were going on in Europe up to the time?
Yes, I think so. I think pretty well informed on it.
Well, did you hear the December 7th, 1941 radio announcement about the bombing of Pearl Harbor by the Japanese, and where were you at and what were you doing at that time?
At that time, I was an instructor in aircraft maintenance school in Rio Haiti, Panama.
And did you hear I'm sorry.
And I'd been down in Panama City that day, and I heard about the bombing. Came back to my base, and they closed the school that day then. Then they sent us all down the beach because the Japanese were landing, which wasn't true.
Was it? So that was a rumor that was going on?
That was a rumor. They confiscated all the cars, and they had the Japanese were sided offshore, so we was down the beach with the rifles, but nothing happened.
What were your thoughts at that time? Do you remember how that made you feel?
Well, don't really remember.
Was it somewhat, you think, frightening at the time, or a little apprehensive?
I don't remember being frightened or really. Probably thought it was a rumor, which it was.
What was your reaction and the response of those around you when you heard about the attack?
Repeat that again.
What was your reaction and your response? What was the reaction that you had, and maybe if you remember any of the reactions of those around you at the time when you all heard about this? What did you talk about when you heard about the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor? Was there a feeling of shock? Was it surprise, or did?
Probably just surprise. I really don't remember that much.
Had you formed any prior opinion or developed any feelings about what had been taking place either in Europe or Asia up to this time?
Probably not much in Asia, but pretty well knew what was going on over in Europe. because there's about that time quite a few ships were being sank right outside the Panama Canal there.
Mm-hmm.
And some supplies got pretty short there.
Were they American ships that were being, or what kind of ships were being sunk?
Oh, these were freighters.
Freighters.
Over on they've been on the Atlantic side there.
When you joined the military, what branch of service did you join?
When I enlisted in the Air Corps. But when I got over to Fort Harrison, Indianapolis, it says something about the Air Corps failed and put them in the Signal Corps Aviation, which I was supposed to be able to transfer back over.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about the training that you went. Do you remember where you were inducted at? And
Listed in Terre Haute, Indiana. Went to Fort Harrison, and from Fort Harrison I went to Langley Field, Virginia, in the Signal Corps of Aviation, and never really did take any boot training or anything like that. Took just Signal Corps training. I was there for a couple months, and about 50 of us went in one day and put in for a transfer to the Air Corps, which we were supposed to be in. And with 3 days, all 50 of us was on a boat Shanghai to Panama.
And not as Air Corps people, but as Signal Corps?
As Signal Corps.
Yeah. And what were your responsibilities down in Panama?
Basically, when I was in the Signal Corps down there, I was on teletype machine.
Mm-hmm.
But really, basically training on teletype machine.
Go ahead.
And I was probably down there about a year in the Signal Corps, and I got transferred over to the Air Corps then.
What did you mentioned earlier that you were responsible for training? You were training other soldiers down there in the Signal Corps?
No, I was training in the Signal Corps,
okay.
training on teletype machine.
Okay. Was there an Army base in Panama at that time, or were you just?
I was at Fort Howard.
Fort Howard. Do you recall reading any newspaper accounts or seeing any newsreels about German aggression in Europe? And
I really don't remember reading much in the newspaper down there, and probably what little seen would have been the newsreel and movies there.
did you have any knowledge of Hitler's speeches or ideas or actions at that time?
I don't remember hearing it. We probably had knowledge of him.
Was your response to entering military influenced by family, friends, or attitudes about what was going on in the world?
Probably not so much that. The reason I enlisted, always was interested in airplanes and wanted to get in the Air Corps. Mm-hmm. And I enlisted with the intention of going up to Chinook Field and be an aircraft mechanic. But I never did get there.
Never got there. When you were switched over from the Signal Corps to the Air Corps, what were your responsibilities once you transferred over?
Well, I got put on permanent latrine duty.
Is that right?
For transferring.
Mm-hmm.
And after serving about a month of that, I asked to get off of it, and I did. Mm-hmm. Then I was sent to Rio Haiti to a tech school mm-hmm. for A&M mechanics there, which I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And when I graduated from that, I was just right at the top of the class, so I was kept as an instructor. And I was only an instructor there for about a month or two when the Pearl Harbor took place, and that ended all that.
Mm-hmm. How old were you at this time?
Yes. Probably about 19.
19. Tell me about the time in which, when did you learn how to fly? Tell me about your...
Well, after I'd been down there for a couple of years, I wrote on exam to take flight training, come back to flight school. And I passed it and was sent back to the States here to go through the airport flight training.
What kind of plane did you train in?
Basic, it was at well, I believe it was PT-19 what it was.
Well, do you have any special memories that come to mind when you think about your training experience in the Air Corps and flying the trainer plane?
Oh, not really. I enjoyed it all the time.
About how long was the flight training program?
I would say 9 months. I'm a little bit. I went to 3 different schools. Went to the Spartan School of Aeronautics, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Took basic training. Independence, Kansas. Tulsa took primary. Independence took basic. And Pampa, Texas, I took advanced, which I flew twin engine trainers there. Then they gave you a choice, asked you what you wanted to fly, and I said I wanted to fly twin engine planes. So I was sent to Del Rio, Texas, and I trained in B-26s.
B-26.
And after I'd finished that, they asked us, about a dozen of us, if we wanted to fly A-20s. And I told them sure, because with the B-26 you had to act as co-pilot half the time. So I went to A-20 at Florence, South Carolina, and trained there then.
And about what year was this? Was this 1941?
No, this has been 43. See, I graduated 43 age, so this would have been 44.
Okay. What about...
See, I was down in Panama for several years.
Okay.
Probably about 2.5 years.
And when you came back, do you know the approximate date or the months in which you trained to be a pilot?
I got out of flight school in probably September of 43. That's when I got out of flight school, and probably started towards the first year in flight school.
Well, coming from the Midwest here, and from a farm background, what was it like for your first time in a plane? And was it an exciting feeling? Did the adrenaline start pumping? Or?
Well, yes, I was kind of maybe lucky a little bit there, because in the primary training, they started an alphabet assigning the students to instructors, and when they got to the W's last, they ran out of instructors. So there was 2 of us left over. So the chief check pilot there took the 2 of us and trained us. And he just trained us for about probably 10 hours. Of course, we soloed. Then he transferred us over to other instructors. And we never did have to worry about taking any flight check or anything. The other instructors wasn't about to wash us out or anything, because we trained with the chief instructor. So we had it easy there.
Do you remember many of the other young soldiers who were training at that time with you? Were they from different parts of the country?
They'd been from all over the country.
And
probably mainly the Midwest here.
About how many was in your flight class, your school, do you remember?
This would be a guess. I'd say about 80. I just really don't remember now.
What was your rank at the time that you went into flight school, your rank in the military?
Well, see, I was a corporal.
Corporal.
But I was a second AM mechanic, which was be drawing the same pay as a staff sergeant.
Tell me about when and or what was your military unit that you were assigned to once you completed your air flight training?
Well, see, when I completed the training, I don't know, I'm going to go and tell a little bit more.
Sure.
Just answer your question.
Sure. Yeah. Please feel free to just to.
When I finished the training at Florence, South Carolina, we were given new planes to fly across to Europe.
Now, this is the A-20?
They were new A-20s. We went in flights of 3, The lead plane of the three had an experienced pilot and navigator. The two wingmen were green pilots like I was, and I had a green navigator. We flew to Goose Bay, Labrador, stayed there all night, then flew to Greenland, stayed there 2 days, then from Greenland I flew to Iceland, and I might say that was the only time I was ever scared. After we flew across the ice cap, we hit icing conditions, and all the planes, or the three of us there, were right down almost on the ocean with their engines run wide open. I remember looking back to see where the release was for the door, and about that time we hit a little warm air and the ice broke off the wings. So I got on over to Iceland, landed Iceland, stayed one night, then went to North Ireland.
How long did it take you to fly from Greenland to Iceland, do you remember?
I really don't remember, probably 3 hours, 4 or something like that, because we didn't carry that much fuel for just maybe 3 or 4 hours. I don't remember exact time.
Well, my next question was, to which theater of war did you go and how did you get there? And you basically told me you flew there and you were on your way to Europe, weren't you?
Well, when we got over there, they basically took the planes away from us because we were just ferrying them over.
Right.
I didn't know that when I thought we could keep them after we got over there. I didn't. And I was in North Ireland. I don't know what we was doing. Probably was just there a couple of days, probably taking a little training when the D-Day broke out. Then I was sent down an outfit and started flying probably 3 days after D-Day.
And where did you, what base were you assigned to in England? Or did you fly out of a base in England or Ireland?
Yeah, okay. I was based in I can see remember what the base I told you it was. No, again, Braintree.
Braintree.
Braintree was the name of the base, which was, I'd say probably 20 miles east of London, right in that area right there. Right south of Bury St. Edmunds, if I remember right.
You mentioned that D-Day was going on about the time that you arrived into England. Did you see the buildup of the massive Allied buildup of tanks and troops or anything like that?
No, because the invasion had already taken place. I probably flew over probably 3 or 4 days later. Of course, you'd see a lot of wreckage and things like that. But when all the buildup was there, see, I wasn't there then.
Okay. So when you were on your base, what was your first combat action that you left to fly on, and when was that approximately?
Well, it'd been about 3 days after D-Day.
So around June 9th, 1944 then.
1944 there. And I don't remember which the first target was. It either mainly we bombed bridges, ammunition dumps, and
well, tell me about
tank convoys.
Tell me about the crew. How many man crew did you have in your plane, and what kind of armament you would carry?
I had a 3-man crew. I was a pilot and carried 2 gunners. One of them would have been a turret gunner, and the other would have been a waist gunner.
And then you could carry. Did you have? You say you carried bombs, rockets?
I just really now forget how many bombs we did carry in the bomb bays, and it seemed like, if I remember right, we would carry 2 500-pound bombs on the wings. And I just don't remember how many were carried in the bomb bay.
Well, do you recall what your emotions or thoughts were at the time, when you went on your first flight, when you knew you were flying over German occupied territory?
At that time, the skies were completely cleared of enemy fighters. Well, I only seen all the time, I only seen one enemy fighter way off in the distance.
Could you tell what kind of plane that was?
No, I couldn't. You see, my gunners had nothing to do really any time, except for a couple missions where kicked out all, well, maybe explain that later on. McHenry really didn't do anything. And I forget what was the rest of the question.
Well, your thoughts about the first
well,
time.
had to worry a lot about flak and aircraft fire because they got almost every mission. And I forget whether I went on 17 or 18 missions before I got shot down. And I think 4 of those missions I had holes in the stabilizer rudders from flak.
Whereabouts where'd you fly over? Where were basically your targets at?
It is all in Cherbourg.
Okay.
Probably within 50 miles of the coast there. I flew 3 missions there, which they called them window missions. It'd be 3 planes would take off before the targets, before the group went over the target, and would drop a tinfoil shaft to foil the radar. And they always gave you fast planes for that. And you'd always fly over the target, be back in bed while the other formation was flying around everywhere.
Well, how do you think your plane performed and your crew performed together? Did you like the A-10 or A-20?
Well, I liked the A-20. And crew was all right, but I didn't always fly with my crew. Sometimes we switched crews a little bit.
Oh, is that right?
A few times. Just, I suppose, I don't know what the reason was.
Do any events stand out about your participation in the war before your capture? Like, say, the number you mentioned 18 flights. Any of those stand out as anything particular?
Well, probably something about the flak stood out more than anything else. Because I know sometimes the flak, I remember one time this particular, looked out the window and the shells were bursting just right alongside them, and just same speed, same thing, at the same altitude, but they were over a couple hundred feet is all. But whenever you could hear an explosion of a shell above the roar of the engines, it was getting pretty much.
Did the concussion shake the plane?
No, I don't remember the concussion, but it about broke up the formation a couple different times. So much flak.
And how many planes were in the formation?
Well, I don't really remember whether it had been 36 in or maybe 72. It just all depends on.
Well, a pretty powerful group, though.
It had been a pretty good sized group. It was always, I would say it'd always be at least 32 probably.
Well, tell me about the day your plane was hit, and tell me how you became a POW. And how
Well, that day, most of our missions were flown to 10,000 feet.
Do you remember what date that was? What the date?
No, I don't write the date. Don't have that. The reason I don't have the date here, all my records are lost pretty well. They were all sent to St. Louis and got lost in that fire. St. Louis had burned up most of the records.
Oh, is that right?
So an awful lot of mine were there. They were sent there because I was trying to get in the reserve over Terre Haute, and they had to have all my records. Well, I sent them in, but never did get them back in. You mentioned about the day there. I don't remember what was bombing it, whether it was a bridge or what. But I know it was just flying 10,000 feet. I just opened the bomb bay doors, dropped the bombs, and got an explosion right under the plane. And one engine went out. And of course, all the rest of the formation went on. Well, they turned around, they was going back home. And with A-20, you can hold your altitude in one engine around 3,000 feet. So I had 2 choices to make: try to fly across the English Channel, or try to fly back to Cherbourg to American lines. And not being a very good swimmer, I decided to fly back to American lines. So I probably dropped down to about 3,000 feet and was going along then. But it seemed like everywhere you turn, you got all, B-50 millimeter and 30 caliber shells. Let's see, 30 caliber and 50 millimeter, I believe, something like that. I'm not sure. Forget the millimeter. seemed like every fence row you seen, they were firing at you. And I remember one bullet hitting off the plate glass window in front, and I think another came through about the throttle quadrant. And by that time, they knocked out the other engine. And I seen a field, thought I'd try to make emergency landing at. I figured about 15 miles or something from American Lines. I really didn't know how far it was. But before it hit the ground, I seen they had piling all in the field as a glider trap.
Okay, so yeah, so that would be like the telephone poles with the
Telephone
wire.
poles sticking up.
Okay.
And I hit those. And I remember just before I hit, of course I warned my crew that it was going to crash to brace themselves against the bulkheads there. And I remember just before I crashed, reaching down and cutting off the master switch to cut off any, like fire. And I remember it seemed like just everything was coming apart. Then the next thing I knew, I was laying out in the field. I don't remember how far from the plane.
Now, did you wander out of the plane?
No, I was thrown clear of the plane completely.
Oh, is that right?
So the plane had to tear up. I don't remember there. I was thrown completely clear of the plane. And I remember my gunners, they weren't injured because they braced themselves back. So I don't know whether the nose broke off or what happened. I remember. Two gunners coming running around there. And by that time, Germans come running up from all around the field. I picked a good place to crash because I guess they had barracks around the field. And they ordered us to put up our hands, and I remember my gunners putting up their hands, and I remember trying to get up to see if I could walk, but the Germans wouldn't let me. And they marched my gunners back, and they insisted, two of the Germans crossed their hands and carried me back to their barracks. And I remember when I don't remember anything about seeing the plane. I do remember seeing one of the engines laying back in the field when they're going back. But I was in such a shock.
Were you somewhat delirious at the
Yeah, I was in shock. I just faintly remember what was going on then. I don't remember looking around at the plane or anything like that to see what was there. But I just remember two gunners running up, and remember Germans coming up. And I remember they took me back to the barracks, and they took my pistol, leather jacket, wristwatch, and I had a couple candy bars in my flight suit there. And I remember they took all those and they gave everything back to me with the exception of the pistol. And they gave me the candy back, and I just waved off because the jaws were broken. I couldn't eat them, and they fell over themselves about thanking me for it.
Oh, is that right? Do you remember the Germans that took you prisoner? Did they speak English?
Okay. The first evening here, I went to a small German field hospital, just about a house. And the German doctor that came in, I had my legs torn, jaw broken, a few other things. He came in and spoke perfect English. He asked me my name, where it's from. Well, you're only supposed to give my name, but I told him where it's from. I was from Illinois. He wanted to know whereabouts in Illinois, and I told him, sure. I said he knew where that was. I said he went to medical school in, I believe, Philadelphia, and he's well acquainted with and he told him, just take it easy. Said, I have no hard feelings towards Americans. Said, you're probably fighting just as same as I do, have to fight. And he operated on the legs that evening. Then the next...
Were you were there other American POWs in the
not
field house?
not right there.
So they were just a German
That's just a small German field hospital right there. Then I remember when they took me to, I believe, Paris in France. I remember took in a Jeep there, and I remember the driver there would drive along a fence row, and then he would look all around for American warplanes or anything like that. He didn't see anything, take off across the field to the next fence row. And finally I got to Paris, France. I was put on a train there with all other German wounded. I remember German wounded. Now I'm getting ahead of myself there a little bit. I remember I was taken to another hospital there. And I remember that evening a bunch of German officers come by, and I remember when they walked by my bed there, heard somebody say, American pilot, and the one German officer spit, said, bah, or something, and walked on. And that was the only time any German ever, any like hard feelings or anything like that. Then from there I went to Paris, France, put on a train there with all German wounded. I remember a German wounded wanted to show me the pictures of their families and everything like that.
Could they speak English?
No, they couldn't speak like that, but they held up pictures.
You could
and
understand.
I didn't understand. We were basically just some freight cars there. Rode all one day and one night, and got off the same place we started. And the only thing I could count for that, they tried to take us all back to Germany. The German wounded me too. And bridges must have been bombed out or something, so they brought us back to Paris. Then I was put in a hospital in Paris, France, which one floor was nothing but American wounded. They had guards at the door. We had German nurses there, and if anybody had to be operated on, they took them down to the operating room. So I was there for about a month. Then the American 4th Division took over Paris, and the Germans took all the wounded back with them, with the exception of probably 4 or 5 of us. I don't really, there's probably 60 in the ward there, some American wounded. I never did know why, just for a reason. I couldn't walk, or couldn't move that much. So they just called in the French Red Cross for about 5 of us. And the French Red Cross took care of us for about 4 days till the American 4th Division took over.
Let's talk about, while you're in the hospital, any conversations that you had with Germans. And you mentioned that except for the one experience where the German officer spit on you.
He didn't spit on me, he just basically spit on the floor.
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of curious always about the people that that we are our enemies, and they're fighting for the same reasons we are, because they're forced to. And were they kind? Were there acts of kindness that you experienced or you remember?
Well, for many Germans, they were kind. I had no problem at all. And you asked about talking maybe a little bit there. Well, I didn't talk very much. I had my jaws broken, all my teeth was wired together.
Okay.
And so I really.
How would you rate the care that you received while in the German hospital?
Well, we got 3 Red Cross food parcels. We got 1 American, 1 French, and 1 British. And of course, my jaw had been wired together. I couldn't eat much anyhow, but it seemed like I remember mainly what they had there was maybe soup and bread and jelly, which wasn't that good, but survive on them. Mm-hmm. I kind of survived on some powdered milk and wine, and I don't get what else there.
Well, what was your first thought when you realized that you had been thrown from the plane and that you were in the hands of the Germans?
Well, I don't remember worrying about it one bit. Just there at first, I was probably in shock a lot, and I just never did. One thing over there, all the German Air Force was a Germans, a light group, and from what I kind of understood, they treated American pilots the same way. They treated them pretty good. I talked to a lot of officers that had been in prison for a long time, mm-hmm. and they said the worst thing was boredom. Said the food wasn't that good, but just boredom, not anything to do, because they didn't make them work or anything like that.
Did the Germans, even though your jaw was broken, did they try to interrogate you or anything like that upon your capture?
I never remember me asking them outfit or anything. They might have. I just don't remember of it now. Of being interrogated or anything.
The other 2 men that were in your plane, the gunners, do you know what happened to them once they were captured?
They got out of the service. I was back here now out of the service a long time before they ever got back. They didn't get back till after the war. I never did see him, but one of the my gunner's wife come down and stayed with us a little while. that's when her husband was a prisoner. After I got back, she wanted to know what happened and everything like that.
Okay, well, let's look at that. When the Fourth Army, when they came into Paris and the Germans evacuated, they came to the hospital, and you said the Red Cross had been taking care of you?
Red Cross took care of me. And I don't, let's see, the French Red Cross had moved me to a small plastic surgery hospital. And where they done a lot of plastic surgery, because my jaw probably needed worked on, and I had to have a lot of plastic surgery on my leg. And I was in the hospital there when I said the American 4th Division took over, came by, and I sent one of the fellows out, telling him to see if he could stop one of the soldiers and come in there and tell him that I was an American pilot wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't about a few hours, and a couple officers came in.
Mm-hmm.
Then they came back a little while and picked me up, and I was then transferred back to England.
And do you remember the month, what month this was?
Not really. It'd been a couple months after the invasion started.
Okay. And about how long were you in German hands before you wound back in Allied hands?
I'd say it'd been practically a month.
A month.
Maybe a little, maybe a week over or something like that.
Okay. You mentioned the Red Cross parcels. What kind of things did you find in them? Was it food, or what type of things would you find?
I really don't remember now. It'd be some candy bars, it'd be powdered milk, probably some canned stuff like sea rations or something like that.
Mm-hmm. What was the sanitation like in the hospital? Was it fairly clean? Was it first rate? Could you tell the Germans were lacking supplies, or did it seem like?
Well, I really don't remember. I just remember going to the restroom. I had a couple of restrooms there on that floor right there. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember just a real small restroom. And as far as I remember now, they was cleaning up. Had German nurses there, remember, and just guards at the door.
Well, once you were back in Allied hands, you said you were sent back to England, and how did you return to the United States?
See, I came back to the United States on I suppose it'd been a hospital ship.
You remember how long that took to cross the Atlantic?
No, I don't.
No.
I suppose 6, 7 days. I really don't remember that.
And where did your hospital ship land here in the United States?
Must land at Charleston, South Carolina.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then once you...
Because I remember going uptown Charleston, and we went to a couple dives.
Yeah, yeah. When you were back, how long were you in Charleston? And were you able to...
I probably there just probably 2 days.
So you were able to walk at that time? And...
Yeah, I could walk. Couldn't wear a shoe. I had my leg bandaged up for that goes, and basically tore a lot of my heel off. And I had to have plastic surgery before I could wear a shoe again like
Right.
that.
And once you arrived back in Charleston, where'd you go after you left Charleston?
Went to Wakeman General Hospital at south of Indianapolis there.
Okay.
They tried to send you to a hospital as close to your home as could. Now, Wakeman was a plastic surgery hospital, so they sent me there.
And so, when you were in the hospital, did you get out of the Army or the Army Air Corps at that time? Were you?
I was probably in the hospital, I don't remember, probably a year.
A year.
Because I had to have had both legs in cast together, and so they attached skin from one leg over to the other, and after it started growing in there, then they cut it off and wrapped it around your heel, and so they transferred flesh from one leg over to the other. And while I was there, let's see, well, they did that over in England before I got back here. My jaw had started to grow together crooked, and they broke it again and rewired my teeth. They did that in English hospital, come think about it.
That had to hurt.
That's hurt more than anything else I remember hurting.
Is that right?
That when they put that thing in the jaw and tried to pry it, break it.
Man. any sedatives or anything with that that they tried to give you, or?
Oh, I suppose they did, but broke my jaw in one place and broke a V place out of it. And it had started to heal crooked, and they had to separate again and wire my teeth together again.
Well, how did your parents, your family back home, find out about your being a prisoner and all this?
Well, of course, I wasn't back there, but I remember telling them, I believe my mother was at a home beer meeting. And somebody, I don't know, both or who, come told her that I'd been missing in action. And of course, I was probably missing in action for about maybe a month and a half, 2 months. I wrote them when I got back here. Or probably when I got back to England, I wrote them.
Was that the first time they'd heard from anybody?
That's the first day that we heard that I was alive or anything. I was just listed missing in action. On that mission I was on, I think we lost. In fact, that was the first mission I was on that we lost any planes. Executive officer went down, was killed, and one other plane went down. So the 3 planes got hit that day.
Out of about 30 planes?
30 some or what it was. We'd had quite a few accidents before, but they were all training accidents at the base. They lost more planes in training accidents than they did in combat there.
Well, tell me about the first contact, the news that you received from your family after you had notified them that you were no longer missing in action, you were alive. Tell me about that.
I really don't remember.
They had to be quite pleased.
Yeah, and I wrote them, but I don't. And I think they came over there. No, let's see. Well, they probably didn't know until I got back to Atterbury, I guess. Because I was thinking if I rode over to England, well, I'd been back here before they'd ever got news back here.
Right. What have been the either long-term effects or the problems that might have affected your time as a prisoner? You mentioned your legs and your heel. Do you still, or do you ever feel any pain from those injuries you received?
No, but I still draw a disability. See, I tried to get them stop that disability about 40 years ago because I wanted to get back on active duty flying in reserves. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't get on active duty as long as you're drawing any disability from the government. So I asked them to stop it, and they said they'd see. And that's 40 years ago, and I still get it.
And you still get disability?
Not that much, but
yeah, it's some.
But I got to watch my heel there, and it's a little hard for me to break in a new pair of shoes because I wear a blister and I don't have any feeling in my heel there or anything. But otherwise, there's any effects there. Once in a while, my jaw kind of gets numb and cold or something like that.
Well, how has the POW experience affected your life today? Do you feel?
I really wouldn't say it's affected me at all. For one thing, I probably wasn't a prisoner that long enough to actually be involved that much.
Well, have you ever been treated at the VA hospital, and if so, were you satisfied with the treatment that you received there?
Let's see. In 48 and 49, I was called back up to the VA hospital at Danville for examination, and I haven't heard from them in the last 50 years.
So everything's fine there, and
I could be dead for all they know. And I've never had any contact. I've never tried getting VA benefits or through the hospital or anything, so
why do you think that maybe in some situations it takes a person such a long time for them to organize or to speak about their experience as a POW?
Well, I think most of them had a lot more, maybe traumatic experience than I did there. Mm-hmm. Probably where they've been prisoner for months or like that, or somewhere else where they've been mistreated or anything like that. But all the time I was there, see, got good treatment. It was all friendly.
So it was a positive experience most way around.
Yeah.
Okay. Arthur, I'm going to fast forward this tape and move it to the other side, and we'll continue with our question.
Okay.
As we're talking about your, the time that you were a POW, I want to ask this: do you remember what type of German troops, kind of field hospital? Do you know if they were Luftwaffe or the Army, or there's different branches? There were SS troops, and do you have?
I really don't believe I'd have. No, I would say it's just regular Army. I know they said if you crashed in Germany, try to be captured by the Luftwaffe or German military, not by civilians or local police. Of course, they'd probably be maybe shot or something like that. Try to be captured by or hide till you could be captured by them.
Did as a pilot, and when you are in the I don't know, the roll call before you take off on a mission, did they ever give you an advice on what you should do in the event that you are captured? I know that you had some very serious injuries, and of course you couldn't have made it back to American lines. But did you ever get any advice from your superiors?
I imagine was probably told. I don't exactly remember. Told probably give her name, rank, and serial number. And I remember every mission or briefing. See, I didn't have to navigate really. I just dropped the bombs when the leading plane dropped theirs. But I always copied down the heading from the target back to England, to base in England. Always remembered the heading, so if you did get shot down, you'd know which direction to head back to the base.
Right. Would you list the military campaigns in which you participated and any decorations you received during your military career?
Well, I don't have them right here. I can get them off another paper as far as that goes. Well, yeah, but if you want to know, I'd have to get them off another paper.
Do you mind getting?
Yeah,
is it accessible?
I just have to be off my discharge there.
Okay, let me stop the recorder just for a moment. Okay, Arthur, we have here your discharge. Let's see, was given at Camp Atterbury, Indiana, on the 7th of January, 1946, and it was the 416th Bomb Group and the 668th Bomb Squadron. And it says here, occupation was twin-engine bomber pilot, and campaigns: Normandy Campaign, Battlestar, Northern France, Battlestar. The Air Medal with 1 oak leaf cluster, the Distinguished Unit Badge, European Theater of Operation Ribbon, World War II Victory Medal, and American Theater Ribbon, a Purple Heart. And your injuries: jaw and left leg, France, August 6, 1944. And here's your Purple Heart.
That's all gold.
Yes, it is. How were you awarded this Purple Heart? Do you remember? Was it a special ceremony?
I don't think so. I really don't remember now. I got it, but I don't remember where I got it. I suppose it's Atterbury there.
So
I don't remember any ceremony or anything.
So on August 6, 1944, so that's right before, I think it was at the end of August, in which the Americans entered France, or entered Paris and liberated that. So, and the second is the honorable discharge from the Army of the United States. And as a pilot, it says paid in full at $101.40. Was that your monthly?
No, I don't know what that is. Oh wait. Maybe is that when they're discharged and got a commission?
Let's see, aviation cadet, non-commissioned.
That's probably what I was getting as aviation cadet, probably
Okay.
what it was.
Okay. And so, this is fascinating to read this. Ray Berkebile, who was the recorder here
Yeah.
at the time, in Clark County, Illinois. Well, it's fascinating to look at these documents and to they tell the story. So,
I had a whole book. She had all my flight time in it, where it flew, and the missions over there.
uh
But as I said, when I wanted to try getting reserve, I had to send all that in.
and it was lost in a fire in St. Louis.
Then it never came back. Well, I couldn't get in reserve because I was still on disability. And I've tried to get those back. I've tried a number of times. Let's see, I probably have a couple letters from. And say near as they can determine, they were all destroyed in the fire there. And they said there might be some other cases. I meant trying some other way to get part of your records back, but I never did go on and try to get them back.
Prior to the end of the war, were you aware that there were any civilian concentration camps existed? And if so, explain how you learned about them and how much you knew of them at the time.
Well, I really don't remember knowing anything about them, really. Or really even hearing about them until after the war was over with.
Well, how did you learn about VE Day, and what was your reaction to it? Probably been about May 1945.
Well, I was in the hospital over Camp Atterbury. I guess as happy as over with.
Yeah. And a similar question is, how did you learn about VJ Day, and what was your reaction to it?
Well, I believe it was uptown here in Marshall. Evening, I heard about it there.
What were you doing uptown? Was it, that's, I think, sometimes the human interest things are kind of interesting. What people
I really don't remember. I just remember being up in the street in uptown. I don't remember if it was Saturday night or what, whatever. I just remember here and there, that's all.
No, you were still in the service at this time? Let's
See, when was it?
Discharge?
When was I discharged there?
Discharge.
Probably was.
I'm trying to think.
Well, I discharged there January of 45,
Okay,
I believe.
okay. It says
46.
It says file for record the 26th day of April 1946. So is that
Well, I was discharged in January.
in January? Okay. Okay.
Because I was in just total 5 years.
5 years. Oh, I see. January 7th, 19. Oh,
Yeah, January.
yeah. Date of relief from active duty, January 7th, 1946.
That's right.
And that was General Hospital, Wakeman General Hospital. Camp Atterbury.
I'd still been in the service, I guess. See, when I was over at Atterbury, I got maybe 2 or 3 months leave several different times.
Did you?
In between operations. Because I have several operations on the heel there.
Well, what was your opinion of the use of the atomic bomb when it was dropped on the Japanese in August of 1945?
Well, right then, I really didn't know how terrific it was. I just basically thought it was another bomb about then, and I don't really remember.
Well, has your attitude about the atomic bomb changed in the last 50 years?
Oh, probably not. It probably ended the war a lot quicker. And I meant then, but now probably changed now.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you think was your highlight during your military experience, the 5 years in which you served in the military? Do you have anything that stands out in your mind in which you're the proudest achievement?
Well, I don't know what the achievement or what I enjoyed the most was going through flight school. Because a lot of times we'd take a plane and go where we wanted to, and a lot of low-level flying, and so I enjoyed all my time in flight school. And as far as achievement, I don't really have any.
Well, when you think about the plane, the twin-engine bomber that you flew during the World War II, and then you think about the planes that you see, on television today, what's your thoughts?
I like to fly 'em.
Still would like to get up there and fly?
Oh yeah, I'd still like to fly. I flew little light planes up to about 10, 15 years ago, and finally
Oh, like Cessnas and...
Cessnas, and then finally gave it up. But of course, nothing on the road was like flying what you flew in the service.
Yeah. Was there anything that stands out in your mind about the 820 that you really appreciated and you think about?
Well, really, everything about the A-20 I like. Back at that time, well, B-25 was pretty good for it. I flew them a little bit. I had to take all my instrument training in B-25 because A-20 didn't have any other part to watch your instrument training, so I took it in B-25. And I just liked everything about the A-20, you know, twin-engine bomber. It's still been my choice of planes back then.
Well, I want to thank you, Arthur, for taking the time to sitting down with me and cooperating with this project. I appreciate all the information you've shared with me, and I believe that this is the type of thing that's important to have for those who are going to come after us to know about what their relation did during the big war from 1941 to 1945. Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
We're picking back up the conversation just a little bit. We're talking with Arthur about a visit to England, and while he was there, let's go back and talk about when you were at the camp and what would happen when the buzz bombs would come over from Germany.
Well, the buzz bombs come over the base there, and we were supposed to get in the bomb shelters, but we got all stood on top of the bomb shelters and watch them come over.
Now that's the bomb that the Germans had that made a particular sound, and it was a rocket. It was a
no, well, no, that wasn't the V2. That was the one that kind of put.
Right, there was the V1,
the
V1 we're talking about. But it was rocket powered with or a jet. It was.
It was kind of a jet power.
Yeah, right.
And they had so much fuel in them, and when they ran out of fuel, that's when they crashed. Now, some of your faster planes, I think if the bum could dive on them and catch them and shoot them down, I doubt whether they shot down that many. Now, your V2, whatever it was, that rocket went way up in the air, down. I never did see any of those.
Well, what did was there a particular sound of the buzz bombs?
Well, you did, I believe, a put like that.
Now, you started to say that one time in London, something.
One time I was downtown London and heard one of them come over. And I probably didn't think anything about it, but I noticed everybody fell down on the ground there. And right away it hit and exploded, and all the plate glass windows in the shop right there broke from the concussion. So that's why the people, that's the closest I ever got to it.
When you were in London, did you see very much damage? Was there still a lot of damage from the bombing, from the German bombings?
I've seen some damage, trying to think when that would have been. It must have been sometime I must have took a train went to London. And I remember going by a good bit of damage there. But I really don't remember seeing any downtown. Or it might have been when I left over there. I don't know when that was.
You mentioned earlier that by the time that you got over to Europe and started flying, that the skies were pretty much clean of German fighters.
There weren't any German fighters. Germans were keeping all their fighters back for the heavy bombers that came a long way to get the bombers there. They weren't going to risk them all out there on the Sherburne because they'd been shot down. The Americans had so much air superiority.
What did you have any thoughts about any of the German planes? Maybe a plane that you respected. I know people talk about the Messerschmitt, 109. That was a fairly decent plane. Did you ever have any thoughts on any of the German planes?
Well, if they'd not seeing him, I wouldn't know now. You always heard a lot about these anti-aircraft guns, 88 millimeter, and of course I learned to respect them.
Sure.
It is very. See, they can put them down to ground level and use them to shoot against tanks or anything.
Well, they could
And
point them right up.
a good anti-aircraft gun too.
All right, thanks.
I feel sorry for some of these deep bombers that went deep into Germany. That's all that anti-aircraft firing black.
Sometimes they said it was just carpet.
It was just all that carpet there, and there's a lot of that. I don't see how even I got through, because there were just shells exploding everywhere. You just look out the side and see puffs of smoke everywhere, like puffs, like you see in the movies, pictures.
Just like that.
That's not exaggerated at all. One time, I remember we got several shells. Don't remember any planes going down, but right almost in the formation. it kind of broke the formation up. And I remember we got balled out pretty bad for breaking formation. I don't remember breaking formation, but some of them must have.
Now, the person, when you would fly in formation, would your commander be in the front plane, and were you all to follow the leader type, or did you?
Basically, it was all.
And did you all fly at the same altitude? Or, sometimes you'll see these formations in the shape of a V.
Well, formation wouldn't be exact altitude, because your two wingmen, so you would fly a little bit lower. And I always hate to get way back in the formation, because if you're way back in the formation, you're just using your throttle continually.
Mm-hmm.
Slowing down and go, see, if the plate heavy slows down, speeds up, that just keeps multiplying it further back. If you're at the front of the formation, real easy to fly, because you just stay right on it, but you get back a lot. My worst worry was always running out of fuel, because we don't seem like we ever had enough fuel, just barely to get back.
Getting kind of close then, wasn't it?
As I,
It was getting kind of close then.
oh yeah, we never carried a whole lot more fuel than to get back.
Did you?
I don't ever remember running out of. This was in training one time. I about ran out of fuel there.
Did you ever have any interaction with British pilots? Did you ever meet any of them?
No, none whatsoever. I remember the one time bombing mission, I believe that was a breakout at Cherbourg there or something. If you didn't get over the target at almost exact minute, you aboard the mission, because there's so many planes coming across. That's the one mission I remember. Skies were just full of planes. Just one group right after another went across the target.
Did you fly over any of the coast area where the invasion took place?
Yes, but don't know exactly. Don't remember exactly where.
I was thinking.
But I remember seeing, I'd say 10,000 feet, which we flew over most of the time. You just really didn't see it much.
Mm-hmm.
And had a lot of clouds over there.
Well, no, I was wondering if you had any recollections of what the beaches looked like, if there was a number of ships still out there in the, in the channel.
Yeah, there was. Not like the day in the invasion probably there, because I think the channel had been about full there. But I say it probably the fourth day, the first mission I flew, and I don't remember then whether we went exactly across Normandy or it was exactly where we did go across those beaches.
All right. Well, thanks.